No. 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 This is not what I wanted to see this week. I'll try and keep an open mind. It looks like Askin is dead, but I will keep an open mind and I will deliver my hypotheses to you as the chapter goes, as the review goes. Anyway, let's get on with the review. Let's just do this thing, and we will discuss what I think is going on. Anyway, what's up, guys? It's Manga Time once again. I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 665, the Princess Dissection, which is a pretty cool name. And I like the Princess Dissection sounds like a name that Kubo's going to put a numeral after. Like, it sounds like we might get the Princess Dissection 4, down the line. So, I mean, it sounds like I'm grasping at straws as to Askin's possible survival, and yeah, maybe I am. I'm not going to lie. But it starts how I thought it would start, with going back in time to Urahara doing his Bankai reveal. And he's like, well, it looks like you're actually serious about trying to kill me. You're not really leaving me much of a choice. So that's good, because it clears up the whole, don't say I didn't warn you last week, when he didn't actually warn him. So we get a cool look at Urahara, and he's like, Bankai, and then Askin's kind of like crapping himself, which I think is warranted, because the Bankai definitely looks a bit freaky. We get a very, very cool double-page spread of Kannon Biraki Benihime Aratame, looking really very cool. She's got, the wooden hands like I thought she did, the like skeletal puppet kind of hands, and she just looks super sinister, like her eyes are closed and she's just hanging over Urahara like that. But seriously, there's so much potential for this fight to keep going past this chapter. Like, you seriously telling me that Kannon Biraki Benihime Aratame doesn't have an ability where she opens her eyes? Come on. That really seems likely. But there's also something that I saw on the forums, and I think someone might have commented it last week, that could this Bankai have come from Senjumaru Shooter's arms? Like, could the inspiration for it have come from that? Because obviously Senjumaru has some ties to the 12th Division. We still really need to find out more about the Royal Guard. But yeah, the fact that she's got similar arms to Urahara's Bankai is quite intriguing. We get a reaction from Askin that was quite expected. He's like, "Oh my, what the hell am I looking at? And did you say Bankai? That's not right. There wasn't anything on your Bankai in the intel His Majesty gave me." Presumably that lends to Urahara being a special war potential. And Urahara's like, this is the first time I've ever used it in front of you people. And apparently both of Urahara's eyes are screwed, which is definitely interesting, because he definitely had one open at the end of last week, but whatever. Askin maintains his composure, though, of course, because he's awesome, and he's like, I see, so that's how it is. And I might as well just ask, just in case, exactly what kind of power does it have? Urahara is not really willing to give anything away, though, not yet, anyway. And he's like, asking me such a personal thing, that's more of a second date type question. And Askin's like, well, what can I say? I like to move fast. And he's like, either way, I'd figure I'd try and get something out of you, because, just facing it head on is enough to make me crap myself. And Askin, again, being very humble, not like Lil Barrow, who's like, as if a pathetic Shinigami's Bankai could kill me, that kind of rubbish. Askin's being very humble about the whole situation. He is actually scared, and that's, I think, partly what makes him so interesting and so relatable to a lot of people, compared to the rest of the Stonemotor, is that he just acts like you would act. He's not some crazed zealot who's just super arrogant. Anyway, Urahara's like, very well then, but the thing is, even if I don't tell you, you'll be up close and personal with it soon enough, so that's pretty creepy. And I will say that Urahara does look pretty creepy with his eye closed and blood running down his face. He does look quite scary. Askin is, again, scared. And then we get to see the first of, well, I say the first, but it appears to be made like the only kind of sort of ability of Urahara's Bankai. But basically, Askin looks down and sees that his arm has been split open from up here all the way down his thumb. His thumb is in half, and it's actually quite a gruesome image. Despite that, however, he's not bleeding or anything. There's some kind of a void in his arm, and he's like, what the and he kind of like, he jumps backwards, and as he jumps backwards, his arm stitches itself up again. And at first I was like, what the hell is going on? But Urahara basically reveals, that Askin has already cottoned on to the fact that Urahara's Bankai has a range. So getting out of the Bankai means that the damage, I believe, is just undone. So Askin's hand just, heals itself again. It stitches back up, because he got out of the range. So, Urahara's like, oh, you're very cool. Most people would be shocked and panicked at the sight of their arm being split open, but you've worked out that my Bankai has a range to it. And Askin's like, actually, it's more that I was just too scared to sit back and let my arm get ripped open. Then something very cool happens. I will admit this is very cool. Urahara's Bankai is pretty. I love the imagery going on here. The Bankai lifts its arms up and puts them over Urahara's face. And Askin's like, what is he doing? And Urahara's like, you might have seen through that attack just now, but Kannon Biraki Benihime Aratame's ability is to reconstruct anything that it has touched. And we get to see Urahara's face, and his eyes are back, but he's got stitches all down his face, and like strings are pulling his face, and he looks creepy and awesome, and it's just really quite cool. Askin, again, naturally very shocked by this. Before we move on, this does appear to be the primary ability of Urahara's Bankai. Definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting something blood-related, and it's similar in that it uses the bodies of the people in the battle. That is what I thought it would do. I thought it would do something like that. I did think it'd be blood-related, blood manipulation, but it's just bodily manipulation. So very Mayuri-esque again, very sinister. It's cool. It's definitely not as powerful as I was expecting. Like, I do wonder why it's not suitable for training someone. Again, lending me to think it's got more abilities. This fight's going to last longer. But yeah, Urahara, he's looking a bit messed up. I'm wondering, what if the changes are permanent? What if he's always going to have those down his face, which is why he doesn't want to use it to train anyone? Anyway, he leaps at Askin, literally. This is a very cool panel. He slashes Askin across the shoulder, and this is where I start to kind of wonder what the hell's going on, because I'm thinking about the end of the chapter. So, Urahara leaps towards Askin, very dynamic panel, slashes his shoulder, and there are strands of stitches following Urahara. So, basically Urahara spins around again, and they clash, and there's a like an explosion almost. It's a cool panel where they're clashing, and Askin's like, what? You can see? But your eyes, they're dead, they're destroyed. And Urahara's like, oh yeah, I can see. My eyes have been reconstructed. And then we get to see what I think is, again, it's all part of the same ability, but he lifts his arm up, and it, like, unravels. And it's, again, a really weird looking, it looks really weird, but it's creepy and cool. At which point it then reconstructs itself, and he then grabs his sword with both hands, including the reconstructed one, and basically sends Askin absolutely flying. So he can reconstruct his body on the fly to make it more powerful. Individual body parts can be reconstructed, so that is quite overpowered. Basically, Urahara's Bankai can essentially modify his body on the fly. So that is cool and quite overpowered. Anyway, this is when things get weird. Urahara dashes towards Askin, and then he hears Askin in the smoke going, no, not like this. And it's so weird because this is like, it's like a build-up to something that just never happens. Askin's like doing this awesome pose where he's got this like DNA strand, massive staff in his hand. And he's like, no, anything but this. This is just turning into a battle of brute force versus brute force. And he's like, even after I was kind enough to let you drag me into your field and then let you set the pace for a minute there, you didn't even capitalise on that. Instead, here we are just duking it out. And he's like, that's cold-blooded, Urahara Kisuke. Then he starts to go off in a bit of a rant, and I was like, okay, something bad's going to happen in a minute. You can just tell. But he's like, but no matter what you throw at me, you're still far from perfect, or have you forgotten already? And this is just when things start to get a bit weird for me. The Gift Ball Deluxe, the Gift Bereich that he created last chapter, just starts like warping and like going all like quite tall and long. And he's like, it's an inescapable poison fortress. And he's like, the only reason you're still breathing inside of here is because I'm still tweaking it to the right level. To which Urahara's like, oh, that's that. Oh, dear, anything but that. You can still increase the concentration inside this Gift Ball Deluxe even further. And then Urahara's like, even now it's taking all my strength just to crawl along the floor. Askin, of course, doesn't take any of that. He's like, as if I'm going to fall for that. I know you're not crawling along the floor. I know you've got plenty of strength left inside you. But he says, even if you were just crawling around on the ground, your Bankai is not something I want to trifle with. But I don't get what's happening here. Like, what's Askin doing? He's just standing there with that. He had that weapon thing, and I guess he's increasing the poison in the Gift Bereich, but I really don't know. Anyway, Urahara's running towards him, and he's like, "You got me, you're perceptive as ever, but you missed one little thing." And then there's a massive explosion of blood, and holy crap, Askin's heart is out of his body. That is possibly the single most gruesome thing we've ever seen in the series. We didn't even see Komamura take his own heart out of his body, so yeah. I will admit, this doesn't look good. And I knew who it was immediately. You can tell it's Grimmjow. Grimmjow has basically come up behind him, done his trademark through the chest thingy. But unlike Luppy, he's actually got Askin's fucking heart in his hands. So, yeah. So basically, Askin got caught off guard and Grimmjow punched him through the back. And Urahara says, it's been on my mind this entire time. This Gift Ball Deluxe of yours, you kept saying that it was inescapable, but you never mentioned that it was impenetrable. So I thought I'd give it a try. Okay, I can buy that, because Askin did only say you couldn't escape from it. So someone, it's easy enough to believe that someone could come in. But this is what I don't get. Urahara says, from the outside of the ball, I was able to create a path to infiltrate it. And we see behind Askin that there are, stitches everywhere. But that doesn't make any sense. Because Urahara has only literally gone Bankai. In his Bankai, he has never been outside of the gift ball. So when did he do it? Okay, Urahara has crafted a path right up to behind Askin for Grimmjow to follow. But I don't get it. When's this happened? The only thing I can think of is that Urahara obviously ran into Grimmjow before he came to find Yoruichi. Urahara then used his Bankai? And then crafted a path up to Askin, and then turned his Bankai off, and then came and found Yoruichi. That's literally the only thing I can think of. But then, even then, how would he know to go straight where Askin's back was? So I'm very confused. Like, literally, if you guys know, please do tell me. I think we'll find out more next week. We better do. And then Urahara says, thanks for the advice, Grimmjow. Again, what? Like, what advice did Grimmjow give him? I mean, we know that Grimmjow fought Askin, but he got defeated immediately. What does Grimmjow know about Askin's power? Like, seriously, I have no idea. Grimmjow is then holding Askin's freaking heart, and there's actually a pretty cool picture of Grimmjow. I'm not going to lie. Grimmjow's not my favourite character by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a really, really well-drawn panel of him in Pantera, which is cool. He's in his release form. And then he crushes his heart. Like, seriously, that's so gross, but it's, like, really cool. It's very metal. But yeah, Grimmjow in Pantera, Urahara in Bankai, Askin in Volstadix. Seriously, who doesn't want to see that fight? Who doesn't want to see those people going all out? So please, Kubo, don't kill Askin. I also just want to bring up quickly, I think Grimmjow's mask has changed a little bit in his release form. You can now sort of see the eyes, or I don't think you could before. So he's a little bit stronger, maybe. So I'm guessing Urahara found Grimmjow, healed him, and then they set up a plan of attack where Grimmjow would come up behind Askin. But the whole creating the pathway eludes me still. I need more clearance on that, because that's weird. Because Urahara has literally only seen the Gift Ball Deluxe for as long as we have, and he hasn't been outside of it, so that's strange. Grimmjow, if Askin's dead, I'm really not happy. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is not what I wanted this week. I didn't want Askin to be taken out in a single chapter. We've barely seen what Urahara's Bankai can do. We've barely scratched the surface. You can tell it must have more offensive capabilities. We've barely seen what it can do. And I just don't like the idea of Grimmjow being the one to kill Askin, because I don't really like Grimmjow. I much prefer Urahara. But I also, and this is probably the fanboy in me, but I don't think Askin necessarily dead. And that's because of a few things. I've got a few things to back it up. One, Pernida and Lil Barrow both appear to still be alive. Lil is definitely still alive. No freaking way is Kubo going to keep Lil Barrow alive and not Askin. That's bollocks. So, yeah, the trend so far is that the elites don't seem to be killed straight away, so I think there's a chance of Askin surviving. I also think there's a chance of him surviving because of the way the chapter was framed. Generally, if a bad guy is killed, you see it. It's the last thing on the chapter. But here, it's framed in such a way that the last panel we see of Askin is just his face like that. When you see the pathway towards him, the last thing we see is Grimmjow crushing Askin's heart, and that's a bit weird to me. It wouldn't surprise me if Askin was like, "Oh my, His Majesty made it so I didn't need a heart," and then suddenly they start fighting again. He's like, maybe Askin will transform again. I kind of hope he doesn't, but if he does, I hope he retains his sanity, because even now he is still one of the only Stoneheads to not flip the fuck out lately. So yeah, I think there are good chances of Askin surviving this. I really do. Because I just, who doesn't want to see Grimmjow and Urahara go all out with their Bankai and their resurrection? Yeah. Another thing that could happen, though, is that Askin could die. We get like a flashback, because I think we're going to get a flashback next week of Askin. I really do. But either way, I think there's a possibility that Urahara will restructure Askin's heart. It wouldn't surprise me if Askin was dead. We get a flashback, his eyes open up, and he's like, "What the hell's going on? Why am I alive?" And then Urahara's like, with his fan, he's like, "I just restructured your heart. I figured it was worth saving you." And then he's like, "You can give us information about Urahara." Because I'd be so surprised if Kubo... I'd be so surprised / disappointed if this is the end of Askin. Not gonna lie. However, Urahara's Bankai, very cool. Very cool Bankai. Just pisses me off even more that Grimmjow comes back to fuck things up. But, Grimmjow does look cool, and he has got some beef with Askin, I suppose, but it's annoying as well. Askin legitimately defeated him, so this feels a bit cheap in a way. But I'm not really going to let it hold against me. This is one of those chapters, there feels like there's a lot of these chapters as well, where next week will really... next week is, how good I find this chapter to be in the long run depends on what happens next week. As of now, this chapter is pretty good. I really like the Bankai. The art is really cool. Again, I think there's more to the Bankai, but I think we'll see it, because I think the fight might last longer. And yeah, that's it really. I'm probably going to drop a 4 on this week's chapter. It wasn't as good as last week's because of the events at the end. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I'm deducting a point for Askin possibly being dead. If he's still alive, then you can maybe retroactively give this chapter a better score. Although I think it doesn't. The thing is, Urahara's Bankai again, it wasn't really that well explained. He said it restructures stuff, but like what was the deal with the pathway as well? That wasn't well explained at all. I don't even understand how that works. So yeah, hopefully more clearance next week. Desperately hoping for a flashback. Desperately hoping for Askin to survive. Desperately hoping to see Urahara actually going proper crazy shit with this Bankai. Like, he did a couple of moves this chapter and that was it. So yeah, that's basically it from me this week, I think. Let me know what you thought of the chapter in the comments below. What do you think of Kannon Biraki Benihime Aratame? What do you think of Grimmjow coming back to kill Steel? His second Stonehead to kill Steel, by the way. Since he also backslashed Kurge. He doesn't need to be actually able to fight them head on. Yeah, just where do you think this is going? Is Askin gonna survive or not? Just, be real with me. Is he gonna survive or not? But as always, guys, that's it for me this week. 4 out of 5. It was a good chapter, but I'm very excited for next week because I'm going to be so disappointed if Askin's dead, but we'll see. We'll see. It's Bleach. We've been reading it for weeks now. Lil got his head cut off and he survived. So, although that chapter was framed in such a way that he was never, he died halfway through and then came back at the end. So, this one is again a bit different, but still not framed in the traditional way of someone dying. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this chapter. Do you think Askin's dead? Or do you like the Bankai? And how do you think the whole pathway thing worked? Let me know. Please subscribe to my videos as well if you like what you see. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, but we've seen people make miraculous discoveries before, so it wouldn't surprise me if Askin was like, "Oh, I can't die. I thought I told you this already," sort of thing. But yeah, until next time, guys. Catch you later.